He built an empire of copper and glass valued at over 70 billion dirhams. He put the names of legends like Bugatti and Mercedes-Benz on his buildings. But just a few years ago, the same man was standing in his office, staring at a spreadsheet that told him he had 2 weeks until his company ran out of money. He had gone from the top of the world to rock bottom. To save his family's dream, he had to sell his personal savings, his own car, everything, just to pay his employees. This is the story of how one of Dubai's most ambitious builders went from 100 to 0 and then fought his way back. It's a story about discipline, disaster, and what a person is willing to do when the entire world is about to collapse. This is the insane story of Mohammed BinGhatti.
Mohammed, what is your latest thinking on that supply pipeline, and are you concerned that too much is being built in this market to match current demand?
Now, Emirati real estate developer BinGhatti has reported record profit for the first half of 2025, jumping a whopping 172% year on year.
Every empire begins with a sound. For Mohammed BinGhatti, it was the steady rhythm of his father's footsteps leaving the house before dawn, the faint click of the door, the silence that followed. He was still a child then, in a nursery where his teacher grew worried. He wouldn't stop crying, but when she asked who he missed, he didn't say Mama, he whispered Baba. Even then, his compass was clear drawn not to comfort but to motion. His father, Dr. Hussein, was a man who had started, as he often said, from below zero. From him, Muhammad learned a core principle: comfort is temporary, but discipline compounds. His mother taught him that a merchant's passport is his word. In their home, honesty was currency. When the school announced a career day, other students came dressed as doctors. Muhammad walked in wearing a small suit. "I want to be a businessman," he said. The class laughed. But to him, it wasn't play. It was prophecy. At 16, he made a wager with the dean of a university to let him in a year early if he earned all A's. Weeks later, he placed a perfect report card on the dean's desk. The door opened. University was an arena where he became an architect and CEO in training. At the American University of Sharjah, he studied the world of architects like Moshe Safdie, exploring parametric design and how geometric patterns could be used to control sunlight and heat. This wasn't just academic theory, it was the birth of the BinGhatti brand DNA. He was simultaneously a student and an executive, living a double life that pushed him to the brink of exhaustion. It was in that struggle that he found a line of poetry that became his mantra: Al-Huzn Taka. Sadness is energy. He began to see adversity as fuel. The ambition for what to build with that energy was born on a road trip from London to Paris. Surrounded by founder-name brands like Bugatti and Louis Vuitton, he turned to his father and asked, "Why shouldn't our name mean something too?" The vision was set. But just as he graduated, he couldn't shake a premonition. Every lesson felt like a preparation. He didn't know what for, but he sensed something was coming, and he was right. The year was 2008, the year the world stopped believing in progress. Across Dubai, a city built on global credit, construction sites fell silent. Cranes hung motionless against a pale sky as property prices plummeted by as much as 60%. And in the middle of that silence, the BinGhatti family did the unthinkable. They officially founded their company. It was not the move of an established player braving a storm, but a new enterprise born at its very inception, an act of pure survival. Their first project, BinGhatti House, rose against the headwind. A buyer quickly offered 100 million dirhams, but then overnight, the world collapsed. The same buyer returned with a new offer, half, 50 million dirhams. The brokers urged him to sell, take the loss and survive. It was a moment of intense pressure, but Muhammad saw it not just as a financial choice, but as the first real test of his philosophy, and so he refused to sell. For 4 years, while competitors filed for bankruptcy, BinGhatti practiced prudent asset management. They rented out the building, generating cash flow and waiting. It was a masterclass in patience. And then, in 2012, the market began to breathe again. A new buyer came. The offer 100 million dirhams. For Muhammad, this wasn't just a profit, it was a proof that in real estate, time is the greatest partner. But storms, he would learn, are not in once-in-a-lifetime events. A few years later, he faced another challenge. A completed tower that wouldn't sell. 2 years and it stood empty. His financial director protested, "We lose 40 million on paper." Muhammad replied, "Paper is not reality, action is." He traded the finished building for a plot of land that had been dormant for 8 years, developed it and turned the loss into a profit. But success, like the desert wind, is never still for long. And the next storm, the one that nearly destroyed him, would not come from the market, it would come from his own ambition. Every empire faces a reckoning. For Muhammad, it came disguised as success. After 2008, his company grew faster than he could control. He launched 10 projects simultaneously. He diversified his business into a massive juice factory, investing over 250 million dirhams into a state-of-the-art facility. Loans poured in easily. Then the floor collapsed. A sudden export law froze the factory's revenue. Banks, sensing the over-leveraged risk, became predators. Cash flow turned to quicksand. One morning, his finance director entered the office. His face paled. "We're out of liquidity," he said. "How long do we have?" Muhammad asked. 2 weeks, maybe less. The same hands that had signed checks worth millions were now trembling over unpaid salaries. He walked through the corridors of the factory, silent except for the buzz of idle machinery. He gathered his senior team. "You cannot borrow your way out of a mistake you built yourself," he told them. He went home and sold everything. His personal savings, 5 million dirhams, his Range Rover, his watch. It wasn't just a financial transaction, it was a vow. No one under his roof would go unpaid. It was his lowest point, but he saw it not as an end, but as a powerful catalyst. In that void, he discovered Grant Cardone's 10x rule, the call to massive action.
Yeah, that's the 10x right there. So, such a dark time in my life. I don't even remember how I found this book. I finished reading the book and I think to myself, it's not over until I decide it's over. Within 6 months from then, I closed the deal for 250 million dirham almost, and I bought myself this watch.
If patience was a lesson of 2008, relentless action would be the weapon of this new war. He became the chief everything officer. At a Cityscape Expo, with only 5 salespeople, the phones erupted. Instead of delegating, Muhammad grabbed a handset. BinGhatti Group, this is Muhammad. Yes, the founder, Muhammad. The comeback was strategic and decisive. He liquidated the 10 real estate projects to clear all debt. And in a masterstroke, he sold the juice factory to the Middle East's largest dairy company, Almarai, for 215 million dirhams. This wasn't just a fire sale, it was a strategic divestment that injected a massive amount of capital back into the company. The crisis had forced him to shed his non-core assets and focused with a laser precision on what he did best: real estate. From the wreckage rose not just a company, but a machine. The new BinGhatti was a vertically integrated engine. Muhammad built at least 6 factories to produce his own steel, aluminium, and concrete. This gave them an unshakable advantage: control. Speed became their weapon. Projects were finished in 2 years instead of 6. Their internal motto became a doctrine: zero cancellations, zero complaints, zero delays. In 2022, the Dubai Line Department officially named them the fastest developer in Dubai. With discipline now institutionalized, Muhammad turned his gaze outward. He wanted to merge architecture with emotion. That vision drew icons. Bugatti residences, a Riviera in the sky, complete with private car lifts delivering a Chiron directly to its owner's living room. Jacob & Co. residences, a tribute to time itself, with penthouses named after legendary watches like the billionaire. Mercedes-Benz places, a cathedral of glass translating the company's sensual purity into light and solar energy. But mastery is never static. While the brand was celebrated, the relentless pace of development led to public feedback citing concerns over post-handover quality and service in some mid-market projects. For Muhammad, criticism wasn't an insult. It was a compass, guiding the company to institutionalize quality control to match its grand ambitions. Today, BinGhatti is evolving again. From a builder of towers to a creator of worlds, the company has acquired a 9 million square foot canvas in Nadal Sheba 1 for a 25 billion dirham master plan community. Here, he plans to realize his ultimate vision, a future where AI meets architecture. Imagine, he says, a home that wakes you before dawn, brews your coffee, and calls your driver, all before you ask. And yet, beneath the circuitry and branding, his philosophy remains simple. If you don't add, you are extra. From a crying child in a nursery to a name carved into Dubai's skyline, his journey mirrors the city itself. Relentless, radiant, and redeemed by resilience. He knows that towers can fall and markets can turn, but principles, those remain. Because legacies are not measured in square feet, they're measured in restraint, endurance, and the courage to build again when the world collapses. He once said that sadness is energy. That failure is a kind of fire. And now, looking out across the horizon he helped build shape, he finally understands. Every scar, every sleepless night, every impossible choice, they were not obstacles. They were the architecture of character. The city may forget, the markets will move, but the desert remembers.